Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your host, Sean. We are bellowing up to the bar. And see, I didn't even get to tell you this beforehand, Doc. So I have no idea how I introduce my guests. Everybody gets their own introduction. It's all completely off the cuff. So joining us is a world traveler, a woman of many talents who has had a career that spans multiple locations, multiple options. She is going to teach us about and I think it's interesting because it has a different term in America than it does in Asian cultures. She's going to teach us about tiger parents instead of helicopter parents. It's a very different kind of a vibe here. So joining us all the way, and I look, she's in one of my food destinations on my food bucket list. Is joining us is Doc. Doc, how do you pronounce your last name? I didn't even ask you. Is it Liu?
Liu?
Lou?
Or
So
Liu.
joining us
Both are fine.
From Bollywood. She might be making movies. She's in Bollywood right now. It's Dr. Toni.
Hi, Sean. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Already, my buddy Steven's already joining us. He was just over on our TikTok with us. We were talking about that. So we're going to get into it. So I already got a question I got to ask you because you are very involved in social media. You are the Nomadic cartoonist. You are all over the place. You've got some pretty wild careers. Let's get into some house cleaning real quick here. And then I got to ask you a question that probably has nothing to do with anything you do, but maybe it does. I'm just curious of your vibe on this and if this news has even made it to Bali yet. So as always, folks, over my right shoulder, we got the big board for Sticker and a Cause. And maybe you're a cartoonist. Maybe you've got a show a podcast. Maybe you've got other things that you want people to know about. You can reach me on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram, TikTok for now, for as long as that's going to be around here in the States. Even our emails, the above the bar podcast at gmail.com. Reach out to me. Let me know what you got going on. I'll tell you where to send your sticker. We'll read all about it live here on the air. We put it on the big board. It's to share with you. It's so that this gets out, your message gets out to other folks so they can learn about what you got going on, because that's what we're all about here at the bar, is supporting each other. Now, Dr. Toni, we got to talk about our sponsors also. Have you ever heard, like, you're a world traveler, but have you ever heard of budget blinds?
I confess I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? Well, that's understandable.
Very grateful.
You're international, but it's really just Canada and the United States. And Canada's really like a suburb of the U.S. Like it's our little brother that we let come around with us. You know, it's like, hey, come on, Canada. You can come hang out with us. But that being said, folks, our sponsors are Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York. They are the #1 window treatment company in the United States and in Canada, focusing on custom window treatments, shutters, motorization, you name it, they got it. They'll take good care of you. And if you let them know at Budget Blinds of Hudson in Coxsackie, New York, or Budget Blinds of East Greenbush that you're there to belly up to the bar, you heard them here on the show, they're going to give you a 15% discount off your entire order. Not just one shade, not just maybe we'll help you out with the entire order. So make sure you're reaching out to Budget Blinds of East Greenbush and Budget Blinds of Hudson and Coxsackie, New York. All right, Doc. Can we rock?
Of course.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Budget Blind. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Budget Blinds. See, I like her already. She said, thank you, Budget Blinds. That made me very happy. So let's make sure I got all this correct here. And folks, you hear me referring to Toni as Doc Toni, because she's the Nomadic cartoonist who, are you still doing family physician, any medical stuff at all anymore?
It's been 2 years. I keep it around just
you keep up on things, you know.
Yeah, just
it's kind of a fallback career, you know.
Yes, no big deal.
No big deal.
Just whenever I go back to see my family, I'm like, oh, I'll just see, you know, I'm here in the States anyway. I'm gonna do a little bit of telemedicine.
Do a little something.
Gotta be on my terms though.
That's a weird one. Like, hold on. because you were a guy, you're a licensed gynecologist. How does that work in telemedicine?
Good point. Actually, I was a gynecologist halfway through the training. So I did 4 years medical school, then 2 years gynecology, but then changed to family medicine
Okay.
because I cared a lot about women's health, but I wanted to do it in a preventative way. I was like, oh, these major surgeries are crazy. Like women already, their health
Right.
has already gone downhill to this point. Like I want to be there like at the forefront to like help them not have that issue in the first place.
Good,
So
good call.
it's a little bit of a shift, but I still feel very much it's like my identity has always been women's health, women's advocate,
I
women's
like it.
everything. So
Because I
yeah,
think that would be a little weird to be doing telemedicine gynecology. That would be like
that is weird.
that would be like
Yeah.
gynecology or telemed proctologist. Like I don't know about that one. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
I that is so true. I mean, a lot of telemedicine, you do guide a patient through like touching their own
Oh,
belly, like for the exam. So I'm just kind of imagining, like, no, there's no way that's not
yeah,
safe to
no,
help the
that's
patient. Yeah, that's go there. Here, do your own pelvic exam. Actually, okay, if I will say my first inspiration for loving sexual health, like, I mean, not my first, but like one of the big imprints for me was in college. I went to a liberal, hippy dippy Brown University college,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
and they had something called FemSex, which is like a semester long course, female sexuality course, not just for women, but mostly women. We had one
Right.
guy in our group, it was like 20 people. And one of the assignments, it was so great because every week we'd meet, we'd talk for 2 hours about anything like related to, yeah, like a lot of it was sexual health or
Right.
like sexuality. And one of them was like, the assignment was look at your own cervix. And at the time, I had never even used a tampon. I was like, oh, I can't do this. So they were so understanding. They were like, no problem. It's very empowering to look at your own cervix. But obviously, if you're worried about discomfort, we can find you a volunteer. You can look at her cervix instead. And I was like, yes. So I did my first exam before ever having any like trained skills to do it. I was 20 years old in some dorm room sweating bullets. I was like, is this woman really okay with me just like using this plastic speculum to look at her cervix? And she was it went great. Actually, she was like, afterwards, she was like, that was like one of the gentlest exams I've ever had. You're gonna make a fantastic gynecologist one day if you choose to do that. Because I was already in med school. I was already in like the 8-year program, college and med school. So I kind of took that, I mean, as a sign. Like I'm spiritual now. I was originally atheist, but I was just kind of like, huh, yeah, okay, this is
Uh,
a skill of mine.
uh,
But also I was like, so cool, cervixes,
Doc,
empowerment, know yourself inside and out.
and Ray's over on Instagram. Uh, Doc, I'm not normally a speechless person. Not ever. You won. The- People don't get me speechless. For those of you that are joining us, that was a first. You win. I don't know what I don't know what to say. I'm not normally speechless, but I just can't imagine. I can't imagine going into a class like that and somebody being like, "You haven't seen your own? Come check out mine." Like, come
Yeah,
on. Like, let's
same.
just come on. Like, I couldn't imagine being in a class where they're like, "Hey, gentlemen, is how you check for a hernia." Well, I'm not comfortable checking myself for a hernia, and some other dude being like, "Come on, man, you can check my hernia. Don't worry about it." You can
Yeah.
see what mine's got going on. And Nate says, "I've always got a smart ass remark." I do. I always do. So, and obviously, and a sex educator. You've done relationship coaching and speaking. You're an author. You host your own podcast called Accept Then Achieve, which I like that. I love the name. I want to know more about that. Leader of the Healthy, Sensitive, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but I know what it means. Acceptation, which is, if correct me if I'm understanding that right, that is part of Asian culture accepting themselves for their own value and their worth, because that's a big thing where you, oh my gosh, I got an A minus. Why wasn't it an A plus? I must be almost a failure in my life, because that's where we get into you deal with, high achievers, nerd. I got to ask you a question about one of these things here in a second, but You're a champion of mental health. What is AAPI? I didn't look that up.
Oh, no worries. A lot of people don't know. Just Asian American Pacific Islander.
Oh, okay.
That's just a
Yes.
term that they
I,
used a
I I
lot.
guess I've never seen it written out that way, but I do know it Asian American Pacific Islander, LGBTQ2IA. I can't get it all out. Women's empowerment, and then you've helped you help work with high achievers, which I'm very who's your big I'm a big Brendan Bouchard. I like Brendan Bouchard. Growth Day.
Hmm.
I definitely get into his vibe because he's he brings a very religious tone to it. Tackling tiger parent aftermath. I want to get into that in a second because I think that is a cultural thing that is and it is too many letters for me, Nate. Like there's a lot of letters in that. Um that is something that's become that I think has crossed cultural lines a little bit. And
Absolutely.
we're starting to see it more in white households where we used to have the helicopter parent. You know what a helicopter parent is, right?
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
like I guess could we call them like like I say like Apache parents, like Apache TAC helicopter parents, because they're like kind of like a tiger parent, but they're also a little bit of a helicopter parent. They just kind of do it all. But
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
like we got to figure out there's got to like an attack helicopter parent, like there's got to be something in there. But all these different things, you've got an amazing career. You're in Bali right now, which listen, I watch all the travel food shows. Bali is way up on my list for eating, but I'm scared of the street food. Like I want to eat it,
Mm,
but like I don't know if my guts can handle it. Like how
understandable.
is it good, Doc?
It is good. I mean, I'm not, I have different gut flora, so it's been lucky.
Yeah.
You can take, just bring antibiotics with you, if you make the trip, just in case. Be
Just bring it.
prepared. That's my motto.
Just be prepared. All right. So before we get into everything that you've got going on, because I'm loving every bit of this conversation already. And look, folks, if you're just popping in here and you're just seeing Doc and I, please make sure that you go ahead and you take a moment, share this out to all your channels, share it out to everyone. Let's get that message going. Let's see what's happening here. I don't know. One of these bots just got me. Let's see. Can I get rid of you later? But so here is my question before we get started. So do you spend any time on TikTok, Doc?
I don't. I already had Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Wait, a little bit of YouTube and a podcast and LinkedIn. So I
Okay.
feel, and I'm doing it all myself still, but I do plan, I'm looking for, if you know anyone, a good social media marketer manager who can do that.
Okay.
Because I heard TikTok uses a different algorithm. Everyone's
Completely.
on
Yeah.
there. So I'd love to also get on TikTok, but
Well,
currently not.
did you hear here in the States that Congress moved on a bill to the Senate to ban TikTok in the United States?
Oh my gosh, I did not hear that. That's
Right.
crazy.
So, and I'll tell it to you. I'd love to hear your vibe on it then. So as you're just hearing it, so basically the bill would ban TikTok in the United States because their feeling is TikTok is owned by a Chinese run company that has affiliations with the Chinese government, which if anyone knows how that works, the Chinese government has the right to tell a company, this is what you're going to go ahead and put on there, whether you like it or not. And
Mm.
that's what's going to be on there. And now here's where it gets weird. All of Congress passed it. It's going to the Senate. The Senate is probably going to pass it. Biden has already said he's going to sign it. So it's going to get banned. We're going to be done with TikTok here probably soon.
Oh my God.
But guess who's fighting against it? Trump.
All the TikTokers.
Well,
Trump. Interesting.
all the TikTokers are fighting against it, but Trump is fighting against it because they said on the news today that if
Mm.
TikTok would get banned, it would push all of that media back over to Facebook because Facebook has Reels and all those things. And Facebook is
Mhm.
who banned Trump during the last election.
I see. Okay, so he's doing it out of personal interest, as
Interesting.
usual. Okay.
Isn't it interesting though? But
Yeah.
they're looking to push him out. So I was like, So what do you think about that? I mean, you're over in Bali. Like it's not even a conversation over there.
Nope. I mean, I talk with plenty of foreigners. I guess it's more an international crowd. I went to a women's circle yesterday. Of the 20 people, there was only one other American there.
Really?
So people were all over. It's like everyone was from a different country. It was really cool.
So
So I
you
guess,
really
yeah,
are a
we
nomad.
don't talk about politics.
So you
I
really
really,
are a
sorry?
nomad. You really
I
are a
really am
nomad.
a nomad. Yeah,
So
it's been 5 years being a nomad. Yeah.
now what was that like with COVID then?
I happened to be in the US near my family at the time, so I took a break during COVID for
Okay.
about a year. Was it a full year or at least half a year until the vaccine came out? And then I continued nomading. But I stayed in the US to nomad around the US a bit. I was in Colorado, Las Vegas, Washington, Oregon, California. So I think I was still like, ooh, I want to be responsible, but I also want to continue living my life just in case this lasts forever. But for a good solid, when it first came out, a good 6 months, almost like, yeah, 9 months, I just stayed in New York where my family was. And yeah, just continued to explore online. Like I realized I was like, oh, I thought I had to have all of this crazy external stimulation with travel. I mean, it is great for me. It inspires my work, especially my art and my creativity. But also, I'm like, wow, I have a rich inner world. If I stay put in one place, I'd be okay. No, like I'm always coming up with creative ideas and I love finding meetups and activities wherever I am. So yeah, but true nomad. And I'd love to continue this lifestyle, I think, for the rest of my life. I mean, even I want it all, right? I want kids too, but it's like people world school their kids and travel with their kids. So I'm
Is
just
that a
like,
thing? That's a thing,
yeah,
world schooling? What is
it's
that?
a thing.
What
It's
is
so cool.
that?
Yeah, it's a kind of it is technically a form of homeschooling, but it's part of the like unschooling movement. So yeah, people just learn with their kids. They have a whole community that like kind of teaches you how to educate your kids. I think it's great because you encourage the kids to love learning and you don't force them to jump through external hoops at a school system just to like, again, going back to my message, like proving your worth. Like, no, because that's how so many people hate school, hate learning. By the time they're adults, they're like, I'm done. I'm never going to do this again. I'm someone who always liked lifelong learning, but it's like, I see so many people that it happens to. So I'm like, no, this is great. Like if I world schooled my kids, we mom and dad or mom and kids, like we would learn for the first, I don't know, 4 hours of the day, 5 hours. Then afterwards it's like, okay, yeah, let's play in the afternoon. Like this is what a balanced life looks like. This is not like work yourself to death 8 hours a day, go to school for 10 hours a day, as in some places. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's very lofty, but that's my goal.
Nate said he'll help you out with your social networking, and if you make it to
Oh,
Montana, I'll introduce you to my Aunt Eileen.
oh,
She'll
thank
help you
you.
out with expanding your mind, if you know what I mean. She'll help you get your mind expanded a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, thanks so much.
Now I got to ask you a question. Now, so I'm going to take it shot in the dark based on your work with people who have tiger parents. And do you want to explain to folks what a tiger parent is?
Yeah, sure. Tiger parent is, the umbrella term, the technical psychological term would probably be authoritarian parent. Just, someone who is kind of close to a tyrant. Like they think they know best. They're kind of bossing you around. I mean, out of fear. They're trying to control you because they think you won't be safe without their instruction, their guidance. But they also have super high expectations of you, very rigid, like you have to fit into my box or else. And sometimes they can use, I mean, everybody reacts differently. Sometimes they use kind of like very harsh verbal like criticisms. Yeah, I mean, I've been called so many things, a loser and a failure and disgrace to the family. I mean, even now, still, my mom is still like this lifestyle. She calls me a homeless hobo. It's like crazy.
Like I'm
You'd
listening to
think she'd
things
lighten
like
up.
the rest of the world would look at your life and be like, "That's so cool. You've kind of like owned who you are. You're in it. You're still well educated, and at any moment you could truly just kind of you could take one step to the left and be like, okay, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to use my medical degree, and I'm good at any moment." And your mother still comes at you like that.
Yeah, yeah, it's bonkers. Yeah, because I'm not fitting into any of her traditional boxes. She's like, you need to be married. You need to have kids by now. I'm 35. And she's like, you need to have one place that you live. That's it. You have to have a house and a brand name car and brand name things, and you have none of that. Like, she doesn't value or understand. Like, really, like the first thing she said when I told her I was traveling the world, she's like, "How dare you do this to me?" is what she said. I was like, that summarizes
Now,
our relationship.
now is your background Japanese or Chinese?
Chinese. So
Chinese.
I
Okay,
was
that
3.
fits, so
Yeah.
that fits more into what I think of when I think of a tiger parent and what I know of the
Yeah.
term. Wow. So
Yeah.
so now, how long did it take? I'm very curious about this, and I know this is a big part of what you do. Uh, with this, how long did it take you to realize that you were living? I don't have a better term in my head right now. Under the regime of a tiger parent.
A long time, because you don't know it when you're in it, right? You're just like, "Oh, of course, like, I
You're
wanna make my
institutionalized.
family proud." Yeah, I it's so interesting. It's like, it's got so many parallels to, yeah, the people who are being abused and they don't know it, and it's like they're being gaslit. It took me about 25, when I was 25 or
Oh
26, took me
wow!
a long time.
Like
Yeah,
you was a grown person.
I was, yeah, I was. So, it yeah,
Wow.
took a
Now,
while.
because of now, where'd you grow up here? You said you grew up in New York.
I did, yeah, Long Island mostly.
Okay, Strong Island. All right, the other end of
Strong
the
Island.
state. Other end of the state. I'm up in the capital region. So
Very cool.
so I'm in the
Near
field trip
Albany?
area where everybody field trips. Yeah, Albany, where
Yeah.
everybody's going to do their at least one field trip up here. Um,
Yes.
so being in the community you were in, was it a large Chinese community?
It was fairly, I guess so. Maybe my high school now that I went to is 60% Asian or South
Okay.
Asian. So that's quite a bit. I think when
Yeah,
I was there, maybe 30 or 40%. But yeah, everyone was like high achieving. Everyone
that was going
was,
to be my question.
trying to get great, yeah, grades, well rounded. Oh, a tiger parent also, people should read that book, like about the tiger mom, Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mom. And she's like, I send my kid to 8 different after school activities when there are only 5 days in the week. And it's like crazy. So it's like you wanting you to be the best that you could be. And it's all for your own good. So yeah, there was a lot. Like, I had 6 after school clubs I was a leadership position in
Really?
the 5 days a week. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I'd be running from one, and I was captain of my badminton team. Yeah, I did a lot. And like, I was at the time, it's like, oh, I just thought this is what you have to do. Like, you have to do this to have a good future, to get into a good school, to get a good job. But I always wanted to be an artist. That was never encouraged. It was always from the very
Yeah,
beginning,
no.
just like, oh, that's nice. That'll never be a real job. Like, what are you going to do for your real job? And they were like, oh, you got to be a doctor because that's the best job. So it was always like, you know, indirectly and directly groomed or like hammered into me, really. They're like, yeah, you're going to apply to medical school, right? Like, of course. I feel like every Asian child probably is like told, like, oh, at least try out pre-med. You don't know if you'll like it until you try it. So they try to,
Try out pre-med.
yeah, just try it out. Just try it out. Like, if you can do it,
Yeah,
do it. If not, okay, then fine. Like,
yeah.
grumble, grumble. You can pick something else
Yeah,
because
I guess you
you're
could
not
be an
cut out.
engineer or something.
Yeah, yeah, or a
Um,
lawyer. Like,
but it's interesting to me because the
yeah,
first thought that came to mind, the reason I asked about that area of Long Island, because I've only ever been to Garden City down there, because that was where, when I was in the Marine Corps, that was where our unit was headquartered. That was in Garden City. Stupid expensive on Long Island. Stupid expensive.
it is.
Did you notice the
Yeah.
highest bachelor allowance for housing for the government in the entire country is Long Island? Number 2 is San Francisco.
Seriously? Oh, wow.
100%.
Okay.
So it's more expensive on Long Island for bachelor allowance for housing than it is in San Francisco. And it's not a huge difference, but it's higher there. But my what I was curious of is, what was this a cultural thing to have tiger parents? You said most people were high achievers, so you had a lot of tiger parents. So do you think that made it harder for you to recognize until you were older and separated from that environment to realize, like, oh crap, this is what's going on?
Definitely. I would say, yeah. there were a lot
Do
who
you think
also.
mom's watching us? Do you think she's watching?
She might be. Oh my
Did you
gosh.
share the did you send her
I've
the
learned.
link? Did you send her the link?
No, I don't
Send
send
your
them the
mom the
link.
link.
I let them.
You should send your mom the link. I would love to talk to your mom. Your mom would love me. Moms love me. She would love me. She'd be like, "Oh, look at him. He got his own show. He great. He own
That's
his own
true. He
business.
making a lot.
He got his own
Yeah.
business. He great. What are you doing? You traveling? You got no house? Oh,
Oh,
I
she recently said that to me. She's like, "Oh, your classmate so successful. She's dean of your school because she invited me to give a speaking gig, right, on mental
right.
health to their engineering students about how to like keep your sanity." And I told her about it. I was all excited. I was like, "Well, yeah, they're paying me several $100s for this. This is so cool." And had nothing to say about that. She just immediately said, like, it's a comical, really. She's immediately said, like, "Your friend's already a dean. She's so successful. What are you doing with your life?"
So like
This was
mom, like
like
no
last
matter
year.
what, mom doesn't hear anything else. It's just this. So how did that affect you? Because I mean, again, and folks, Doc Tony maybe I have to be one of my new best friends because I just her story is just absolutely we haven't even scratched the surface here. And I'm like, you know what it reminds me of is and this is the only thing I really have to gauge it off of because I've seen a lot of tiger parents before, but mostly helicopter parents because I think of helicopter parents. And you know what that is. And if you don't, folks, helicopter parent is that parent that, little Johnny, little Susie, they don't even start to fall over and they're like, I got him. I got him. You can't go nowhere. And they're feeding them like, let me feed you all the best things. You can only eat organic, grass-fed, left-handed cows that move only in the evenings because I read one time that these make for smarter children. While at the same time, the kids in the backyard setting the entire garage on fire because they can't get out of that box. It's like another form of it. So as you're moving through this, and some people would tell you, well, Doc Tony, come on now. You've got a PhD in medicine. You're able to be confident enough to travel. If mom didn't do all these things, you never would have been there. They would almost say that. How do you react to that when other people say to you, or even do they say to you like, yeah, you're talking bad about these things, but if it wasn't for that, you could never be here. How do you feel about that?
Actually, I've not had that comment said in that
Okay.
way. People have been very kind and understand. They were just like, you know, it sucks. You went through a lot, but your greatest wound is your greatest gift, and this is what came of it. I'm like, yeah, thank you. But nobody was like, oh, you wouldn't be where you are if that hadn't happened. Because I think if she had been the kind of, healthy, understanding, non-narcissistic parent, like it was just like, yeah, you can do it. Like you love art, like try it out, sweetie. I would have went to art school, I think, and
Oh
maybe
yeah.
like gone on a more direct way. Like I would have maybe, I don't know. I don't think fashion, like graphic design would have been my thing. I think I would have just found like, yeah, like maybe like an artist company. I always wanted to work for Disney. I thought that'd be cool. And then maybe I would have been like, no, this doesn't allow me to travel. And then I would have found a remote job or freelance art. And I was like, great, I would do this. I don't know about the sex education piece though. I think I probably would have found that anyway because I loved femsex and Brown. So that I think I'd be. I don't know. I mean, you never know, right? Like I can't go back and
Listen,
change.
you've
But I
already
think I would have
won.
started earlier.
You've
Thank you.
already won as one of the best guests. That is a story that I'm like, I just can't. Again, going back to that, folks, if you haven't listened to the beginning of the show and you're just joining us, you're going to have to rewind and listen to the beginning of that and hear Dr. Tony's story because that's just one where I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I mean, you want to go ahead and check that out for me? If you need, I got you covered. Like, that's just wild to me. So now I'm going to, so how do you, and I think as you're talking in your travel, I thought about one of my favorite quotes. It's a Mark Twain quote. Can I read it to you real quick? Mark Twain said,
Absolutely.
Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow mindedness, and many other people's need in sorely on their account. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. And I think about, you're telling me you were trying to be held in that vegetative sector and you expanded out. When you expanded out and you went to brown, obviously that just changed everything. Like that, fuck, I don't even, that changed everything. But how did that help you in your path to where you are now as the nomadic cartoonist? How did all that change and get to where you are now? Because I feel like I'm all over the place talking to you, because Dr. Toni, I was excited to talk to you because I was like, this is going to be cool because she's got a lot of cool stuff going on. But I am absolutely just, I don't even know where to go. You got me. You won. You've won. This is one of the coolest stories I've heard in a long time. Get it, Dr.
Thank
Toni.
you.
Go.
Oh,
This
thank
is
you.
all you. Go. I don't even know what to
Thanks.
say.
So are you asking like how travel affected me and helped?
I'm asking, like, how do you go from hyper tiger mom to helping people through that path to where you are today with travel?
Yeah, I don't know what came first, right? I think I always loved to travel. Like, we went back to see family in China growing up every few years. I studied abroad in Japan. I love my style of cartoon is like the Japanese anime manga
Notice?
style. I'm still trying to publish. I have this idea for, I don't know, 5, 10 years already. I'd love to publish it one day, about, yeah, like many things, like women's empowerment, teen issues that teenagers face in the guys, not the guys, but like a badminton club. That's basically the plot for
Nice.
that. But the travel, yeah, studying abroad in Japan. I really wanted, so before medical school, I wanted to take a gap year or two to go teach English in Japan and be abroad and have that experience. But again, the parents were just like, kind of implying, or my mom, really, it's just my mom. My dad's more reasonable, thankfully, but still, he just never stands up to her. He takes her side all the time, so not
Is
really.
that
But
typical?
anyway,
Is that typical within Chinese culture? Like, a lot of men are like, or at least when they come to the States, because they're, you see it, satired on TV, but I don't know how real that is.
ooh, I mean, I think it depends on the couple, but it could be. I mean, it's like happy wife, happy life, I think
Right.
is that term that's thrown around. Yeah. So anyway, they were just she was kind of implying that I interpret as they'll disown me, they'll kick me out from the family. She's like, you go into medical school straight, like, we'll help you out and it's good. But if not, don't expect a single thing from us. And I'm just like, what? Like, Brown will wait for me for up to 2 years. Like, why is this a problem? But back then, I mean, I didn't have the guts really, like, and growing up with tiger parents, it crushes your self-esteem. It's like I had to change something because I was in such a bad place. It's like crippling self-doubt, questioning every single decision, thinking, like, calling myself a loser and crap and like worthless. I've been so mean to myself in the past, and sometimes I still slip back and I'm just like, wait, no, I'm a winner, I'm not a loser. Like, no matter what happens. But anyway, it was just, so travel was always a part of my life. I loved, as you said, like seeing other cultures. Like, it just like makes you like look at your many problems that people worry about. I'm like, this is not a big deal. Like, come on. There's like we're so fortunate. I mean, I feel so fortunate to be an American. Like, I just was like, I have so much privilege, and these people are starving, and it's just like, what can I do to kind of equalize or like make things better? And so I just, yeah, I think I love another quote. I forgot who said it, but it's like, those who travel read the whole book, but those who don't only read one page. So it's like, yeah, this
I
is
can see that. Yeah.
humanity. Yeah. So it's like, not that we have a moral obligation to travel, but I was just like, yeah, it blows my mind when some people are just like, yeah, I never left my town, I never left my state or my
I
country. I'm
never
like,
understood that.
what? Like, aren't you curious to see what's out there? No. And I'm like, okay, maybe you're someone who, like, the education system crushed out your natural curiosity. I'm not sure. So I don't know what came first, like the travel, the creativity. Wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Look,
I'm all
I'm
over the
just going
place
with
too.
everything you're saying at this point because I'm loving every bit of it at this moment. So, where I was kind of going with all this is, so you've got all this, you realize, okay, I'm getting into the medical field. You said you practiced for a couple of years, and
Hmm.
then it was like when you finally realized, okay, I'm breaking away from this and I'm going to start the traveling piece. Was that when the cartooning started, or what came with that travel piece?
Ah, I see. Yeah,
And I
it
have somebody who
started
will
at,
travel with you. You can take Cody. Cody is a good friend of mine. She will travel all over the world with you. You can have the biggest hippie that I know. She will leave tomorrow. She's trying to figure out how to get elephants to back together to make out in India or something like that. She understands it. I don't, but you can have Cody. So how did you move from, like, what came
Mm.
next? So we're moving out of being a physician. What came next?
I guess it was both simultaneous at the same time. I prepared for it. So I hit, as I said, I realized, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Oh yeah, yeah. I welcome travel buddies. Thank you. Yay.
She used to draw a guinea
Because I've
pig. I
been,
have no idea what that means, but go ahead. Why do you wanna draw a guinea pig? I don't know what that means.
yeah.
You have to explain that.
Anyway, yeah, so I was preparing for it because it's like when I was 25, 26, somewhere that I was in my gynecology training, and I had gone, been a good obedient Asian daughter and gone straight into medical school because I was like, I don't want to be outcast and disowned from the family or like divided. It's like
Right.
I thought probably she didn't mean it, but like I never was really sure because my mom also locked me out when I was 16 and I came back just a bit after curfew, which was sundown. And I'm just like, I, like, I, and
Like
then my
straight
dad had to
abusive,
unlock the
like,
door. Yeah,
wow.
yeah, so I was kind of like, "Ooh, I think she'll mean it if she's, like, actually like, okay, we're gonna cut you off, disown you." I mean, I don't really know, like, she's the kind of person that I'm kind of like, she would do it, even just out of spite. Anyway, so I was like, "Nope, not gonna risk it." Went straight in, and then I just couldn't do it. I got increasingly burned out. It's like I finished medical school. My medical school advisor was like, "Tony, do you really want to be a doctor?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, I think so." And it's like nervous wreck the whole time. And then it's like, and then in gynecology, I was just like, again, it's like the self doubt, like the question, like, did I make the right decision for this patient? Oh my God, like the patient's lives are on the line. Like, how can I do this? So I hit a
Right?
really like terrible burnout rock bottom moment where I was just like, I feel trapped. I feel like, well, I don't want this life, but I don't know how to say no and leave it, like of my own free will. It's like I don't want to lose the love of my family. I mean, honestly, like I went skydiving at that point, not like on purpose. Like a friend was going, so I was like, you know what? I never thought I'd
Sure.
consider this, but I literally have nothing to lose, and because I was like, I wouldn't even care if something happened to me because then I'll have like an acceptable escape from
That's what I was
medicine,
gonna
and I was
ask you.
just like,
Was that what that
oh,
was
dude,
like, "Hey, I'm
yeah.
gonna go do this, and if the chute doesn't open, at least I don't have to deal with that anymore." Not like
Yes, that's
not
exactly
like
my
I
thought.
wanna
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like, it's one of those weird, like, I don't wanna commit suicide, but at the same time, a crippling injury, you can't bother me anymore.
Right. It's like, oh,
I understand it.
yeah. Yeah. It's such a messed up place. Yeah. So, yeah, that's when I realized, like, okay, I need to get help. So, like, I was just trying to push through and be strong all on myself. But yeah, at that point, I was like, I think I need to leave medicine, but like, how on earth? And then I talked about it with my family. That was like the start of several, like, yeah, really exhausting, explosive conversations. And they were like, maybe it's the wrong field. Maybe just try something else out. And so that's another reason I applied. And like I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try family medicine. Maybe it was just the stress of, yeah,
Right.
right, like the stress of the high stake. Because I was doing surgeries, I was doing C-sections. I like
Oh,
did really
you were
cool
in
stuff
there.
as a gynecologist. I was in there, yeah. But I was like, this is really fun because I played video games growing up. So I had like hand-eye coordination and I love sports. So I was like, this is great. Like I actually have a skill for this, but I'm like, I mean, I'm just the kind of person I'm already hard enough on myself, but like if someone got hurt because of my decision, I'm just like I feel like couldn't live with that guilt for the rest of my life. Like, it just would be really hard on me. So I thought, okay, better for a lower risk field anyway. But at that point, I also knew, like, okay, I need to start planning for an escape plan of some sort. Like, I got really scrappy and frugal. I mean, I still lived life, but I was like, I'm saving up for my freedom here. And then, like, I had read about other nomads and other people who were living and working online from blogs. And I never talked to them, but I was like, if they can do it, I can do that too. And like, yeah, and why can't I be an artist? So I was just like, so I saved for, you know, I worked as a doc for like 5 years, half like with the training. And then as soon as I graduated my family medicine training when I was 30, I was like, all right, I'm leaving. I booked a one-way ticket to Spain to start off, and
Oh,
I was
Spain
like,
is
yeah,
nice.
I'm gonna do this. Yeah, and I made my blog, I tried travel writing, I tried made my Fiverr and Upwork accounts for art and just went for it. So they kind of started at the same time. And in hindsight, yeah, it's hard to start multiple things at once. So I probably would have done one thing first than the other,
Well,
but I kind of feel like
that's
they
that
went
time.
hand in
That's
hand.
that 6 clubs in 5 days leadership uh, coming out in you. You know, you had it going. Do you
Yeah.
want to read what Cody said? I can't even. I love
Vaginas
it.
can be terrifying.
I
Yes.
think that is a T-shirt. That is your T-shirt right there of why not to become a gynecologist. And she also, though, now I understand the guinea pig. She has a guinea pig named Hodgepodge, and she would like to
Oh,
talk to you about being the cartoonist of the adventures of Hodgepodge, the guinea pig.
oh, how
And listen,
cool. Yes,
is
let's
that
chat.
not like a Japanese thing, like to do a guinea pig with the big eyes? What's that style where they like look overly cute? Like it has a name to it.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? I'm
Moe?
talking about? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
maybe it's
Yeah.
Moe. Chibi, Chibi.
Chibi. That's it. Because
Yeah,
it's all
yeah,
over
yeah.
Disney. Disney's got like a whole thing with it.
I love chibi. That's my default style. I'm just like, oh, so cute. Yeah, I mean, I
Not
can.
manga. Chad, you goofball. Goof. So you decide you're gonna go out on this adventure. You're headed out there. When did we start getting into your own podcasting and working with people with the like the acceptation, that whole movement? When did that all start getting into this?
Well, so it's pronounced exceptions, like a play on words, like, hey, we're exceptions to the rule. There's
Okay.
no extra A, but acceptations is great too. I know people have, I mean, I'm flexible,
Okay, look, go.
however you want to pronounce it.
So what's the right way to? No, correct me. I'd rather you correct me and be right. So what's the right way to pronounce it?
Oh, it's called exceptions.
So it's just exceptions. It's just okay, but it's okay. I'm got it. That whole reading
Spelled
thing gets you every
differently, spelled differently.
time. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. So like being an exceptional exception.
I
That
got it.
started in 2019, actually. Shortly, just 6 months into traveling, I had the idea for it. I was like, you know what? I think it'd be really great to support other people in some way, like even just a community, knowing that there are people who are daring to break out from the mold of like a traditional life, like being an exception, but also like being an exception to the Asian culture of, yeah, filial piety, fault, like being, what soft spoken and submissive and kind of like always listening
Right.
to other people. It's like, no, these are actually some toxic customs that have been passed down. Like, let's question them if they actually are healthy or not. Let's not just like keep passing it on generation after generation. So it was like with that in mind that I just started it. And back then, Facebook was more popping. Like now, the algorithm sadly has gone down, so the group isn't as active anymore. It's more, but back then it was like, yeah, we had monthly events. I had like three other
Wow.
team members. Yeah, it was really fun, and I think it helped people feel less alone. And it's still here now. There's all of the content and everything. I've made workbooks, I've made videos. There's just a lot on there. And I never thought about using it to become a coach. Actually, I didn't hear about coaching until like 6 months after that. I was like, oh
Okay.
wait, okay, this is what I don't really know what a life coach is, or just what are all these coaching industries. And then like relationship coaching, I was like, you know what? I think everything that I do relates to someone's relationship with themselves. And also I was like, because of my unique experiences, I really care about helping people to like just find more peace within themselves, also with their family members. Like you went through this whole spiel, like how can you get over like and forgive, and just I had a lot of resentment towards my parents for a while, but then like I just feel like I can understand where they're coming from. Truly, it's like they grew up in a crazy time when it's like you needed the stability, you needed the steady paycheck, and they were, I guess, yeah, they were bullied or discriminated against as immigrants in
Oh
America.
yeah.
Their accent, things like that, they were just like, you have to be a professional in order to be respected. So yeah, and I know it's like they just wanted me to be safe. So it's like, how can I hate them for it? No,
It's interesting
it's
though that you're
yeah,
seeing the other side of it as you've gotten older. Not that you
yeah.
like what they did, but you understand that
Mhm.
logic of what it was. That's very interesting. And folks, if you're just joining us, we're getting close to closing the bar up here soon. But check out what Dr. Toni's got. You can find her on LinkedIn. It's Dr. Toni Toni, and then Liu Li. Am I pronouncing it right? Liue. Is it Liu?
Mhm.
Fix me. It's Liu,
Oh,
right?
yeah, Lou is good.
No, don't tell me it's good. Look, Cody gets on me because I can't pronounce anything. I'm horrible that way. I
No,
have a
no, you're fine.
I'm a true mid-Atlantic Baltimore accent. I read things the way it's written. It's bad. But, look, here she goes. Look, see, here we go with pronouncing. I can't pronounce anything. It's bad. But make sure you check out what Dr. Toni. You can find her on LinkedIn. She's got great content. If you're looking for a traveling cartoonist, she's there. Uh, Look, no, he is not fine. It's rough. It is absolutely rough. Make sure you see what she's got going on. See what she. Oh, thank you, there, Cody. What she's got going on. But so, what has been your experience with the travel locations? Is there some places you go to and you bring the podcast with you? You're bringing the you're welcoming to these communities that in some of these countries they have to be outliers. Like you're in Bali right now. I
Mhm.
I don't know personally what the feelings in that area is. I'm trying to think. God, I'm trying to get all my cultural stuff in my head. Bali's fairly Muslim, isn't it? Or is it Hindi?
Bali, Indonesia is Muslim, but Bali is Hinduism
Okay, so it's more
on this
Hindi,
island. Yeah,
Hindi in
yeah.
that area. I I lived in, as crazy as it's gonna sound, when I lived in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, it was mostly here's one for you. That is mostly a lot of Gujarati and Punjabi. Huge Gujarati and Punjabi
Interesting.
populations. So I learned all these different things. I knew more Patels than you could shake a stick at. Everybody's We would go through the list of calling kids, and there would be 5 to 6 pages of a graduating class that everyone's last name was Patel, and they probably weren't related to each other. So, when you get to places like that, and here you are as somebody who's championing people who have had tiger parents, but you're also championing mental health, LGBT community, women's empowerment, which in a lot of those countries, that's not a thing at all. And here you
Yeah.
come as a very well educated, well read, well spoke woman to cultures that you're lucky that if she can write her own name on a check if she needs to. How is that?
Mhm.
How is that for men in those cultures? Do you see a lot of like effects of like they're intimidated by you or aggressive towards you or anything?
Hmm. Good question. I have again, I feel lucky that they haven't I haven't experienced aggression or I feel like whenever I've traveled, people have just been so kind and friendly and really welcoming. Actually, yeah, full disclosure, I had a trouble in the ocean yesterday. I feel like I did feel like I nearly drowned. Holy cow! And then like these Indonesian men, okay, like I'm still processing because it just happened yesterday, and I just like talked about it on my podcast yesterday. And I was like, wait, I'm not sure if I should share this yet unprocessed, but and I was just like, I just feel yeah. So like the waves were just crazy. Like people were surfing, but then like the current, I just couldn't get back to the shore, and so I started yelling for help. And then these two Indonesian men just like rushed towards to help me, and then they were so sweet. And like after, like they brought a surfboard because even like without the surfboard we couldn't we all couldn't make it back to shore, and it was like it was crazy, it like so crazy. And then afterwards like they brought me water and asked if I was okay, so I just was like, oh, that's I've only had like people being really helpful and going out of their way. I mean, but yes, but going back real quick on like the inequality, yes, that's why I have done volunteer talks or just help out whenever I could in Thailand, where I spent most of my time so far in Southeast Asia. At least I spent a total of 8 months there because I kept going back. I gave two talks, one to like the girls in a Buddhist temple where I stayed for a couple of weeks, about like learning about your body and yeah, and like everything, and any questions they had about sex. And then another one for like the teenage girls at a children's home, like an NGO center, where these were uneducated, like people from the mountains who lived 3 hours away, and someone of a lovely soul created this housing where they could go to public schools in the city temporarily, but then the girls, inevitably one or two would get pregnant, or actually two or three would get pregnant every summer and need to drop out. So they were like, Toni, is there any way you can give them a talk or teach them how to better protect themselves? And I was like, I'd be glad to. So I do that. And yeah, so I try to help out in whatever way I can. I talk to the locals. Sometimes there's a language barrier, but it's just like, hey, if there's anything I can do. And then here in Bali, I'm waiting to hear back from someone who works with children with cancer, and how like we can use art therapy in some way to help give them more hope, and maybe even like comics, like draw yourself as the hero of your life, and like overcoming all your issues as a villain. So yeah, I just feel like, I mean, maybe it's bad to have so many passions, but I just feel like whatever way I can help out, and I'm just one person, and so that's why I'm like, I also want to make more online courses that can just be accessible to anyone in any country for any price, like $1, just if you need to, because I feel like, will people hear about it if it's free? But like, still, it's like, I just believe so much in doing what I can in the short amount of time I have alive to make a difference somehow.
You are, listen, this is for you. I don't know if it'll come through well.
I got tiger blood, man.
You got tiger blood. You are amazing. Like just hearing you, like I'm inspired listening to what you're saying. Like the fact that you just, like, listen, most of us, we have the typical American dreams of everything your mother told you to go do. And you kind of went and said, not today, maybe down the road. And now Cody wants to be your new best friend because she wants to go save orangutans in Thailand with you. And she's got a new t-shirt for you to help these girls out. You're going to get them t-shirts that say, "My vagina is terrifying," and hopefully that'll keep men away. Hashtag my vagina
Sounds
is
awesome.
terrifying.
Yes.
That's the
I'll
new
draw it with the teeth too.
Oh, that's perfect. That won't be scary at all.
That's the perfect t-shirt. Yeah. Like teeth on the back, teeth on.
That's it. It says my vagina is terrifying. So, oh my God, I don't know. I don't even know what was started here today. So, but you also deal with giving people like a real voice and a slice of self-love, you call it. What is, so self-love, I think has had a lot of iterations as a term, but how are you nailed it? Anti getting laid t-shirt. We just put my face there, Cody. Nobody's bothering you then. So, but what does that mean for you when you're talking about giving people a real voice and a slice of self-love? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think self-love, I mean, there's so many ways it can
Right.
present, right? But yeah, I think, because a lot of people think self-love is, oh, I'm just self-care, right? I'm going to pamper myself. I'm going to, treat myself to good food and massages or
Exactly.
whatnot. Like, I think it goes so much deeper than that. It's like when you use your voice, like the self-love truly, like when you inside it out, like down to the core, is like you know who you are deeply and you can express that. It's just your fullest expression. You can advocate for yourself and your values when someone doesn't treat you right or crosses your boundary or something. Then you can just say that, like just in a loving, respectful way, but still like just knowing yourself. Yeah, advocating for yourself is a big piece of that. And I think also checking in with yourself too, like not being mean to yourself, self-compassion. It's like before, it's like the inner critic from my tiger parents.
Yeah.
You internalize, so many people do. They just like, they're so hard on themselves. They're just like, oh, I messed that up. And they're like replaying the mistakes or what they should have done instead. Like way later, like sometimes even months later. And it's like, no, it's like understanding, okay, I'm human. I tried my best, or I had limited knowledge, and like, I forgive myself. I'm going to move on and I'm going to focus on what I can do now in the present and even the future. And just, yeah, being fully alive, fully present to your life and fully enjoying it. There's so many layers to it. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So like, just, and knowing your needs and right. Just, Gosh, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but
It's all right. Well,
yeah,
I was going
just
to ask you,
yeah.
is there anything that you, when you're doing these things, or when you're doing your podcast, and in a minute here, I want you to tell everybody when they can see your podcast, how often are you putting it out there? But is there any type of mantras? Like I've seen plenty of stuff online where people are like, take 25 deep, and I've done this, take 25 breaths, yoga style breaths, and then let those out, and then look in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you 10 times in the mirror, and giving yourself these type of things. But has there been any techniques that have helped you, or anything that you've used that you would say, like, hey, if you're in this position, start here. This is your baby step to move forward, even getting away from that tiger parent mentality?
Hmm. Oh, there are so many. It's hard to just suggest one. One of them that I like is like when you wake up, just saying thank you 10 times. Just like again,
Really?
reminding yourself it's
Do
a
you
new
look in
day.
the
Yeah.
mirror? Do you look
Thank
in the
you.
mirror when you do it, or you just say it
Uh,
out loud?
no, I say it out loud in bed. But I think like these things, different things work for different people. Like I tried a lot and I was just like, ooh, that feels cheesy. That feels inauthentic to me. Like
I know
but
what you
finding something,
mean.
yeah, that works for you. I mean, I like, and this is sounds super cheesy too, but like you're just making a list of like, oh, I like that quote, like you've survived 100% of your worst days. You're doing great.
I
So
love
it's
that.
just, yeah, I think like something that's like real and not like the airy fairy, like usual self-love
I
things. Like
love
the
that.
ones that really hit deep for me. Yeah. And so it's like I write a list and sometimes I print it out and I keep it with me just like all the shit that I've gone through, right? Like all the
That's
things we've
awesome.
overcome. And like, yeah, and all the reasons, like just because when we're in these crazy, like, emotional flashbacks from complex PTSD. That's what they
Right.
are. Like you just feel as helpless and powerless as you did when you were a child, and you forget all of the wonderful things about you. And so if you have a list, you just remind yourself like, oh wait, yeah, this is why I don't suck. Like this is good. So if you are deep in it, it depends on where you are too. But if you're like beating yourself up every day, then yeah, like just start with that. Like just really reflect back on your life, no matter where you are, even if you feel like I've accomplish nothing. Like I bet we can find something. And if you want, like I do a free first session or donations based first session, so anyone can talk to me if they're
Well,
just
how would they
like,
get a
I
hold
don't
of
know
you?
what's good about me. Oh, right. So my website, drtooni.com, drtooni.com, and you can send me a message there. You can book a call. You can email me, social media. There's lots of ways. My podcast is pretty new. I'm trying to stick with it weekly, but it's only been like 17 episodes so far.
Hey,
I
you're winning.
always liked writing more than speaking, but I'm leaning more into that. So I welcome guest speakers too. I'd love to have you if you'd like the podcast. I alternate like a solo versus a guest episode every other week.
Listen, if you've made it to 17 episodes, you've passed the hump on podcasting. If you didn't know that, the hump is
Really?
10.
Okay.
The hump is 10, because most people get into podcasting. You're like, yeah, so I'm going to get into this podcasting thing. I'm going to do like, I figure after my third episode, I should be getting like $1,000 to $2,000 a week, because I'm pretty interesting as a person. And they hit that 10 and they realize, wait a second, I've got a plan for every episode. And a lot of us make the big mistake is, and I did it when I first started. Oh, I need to edit this. I need to clean it up. I need to do all. How you and I are talking right now is exactly how this episode is going to go out. I don't play with
Same,
it.
same. I don't edit. Yeah. It's
None
all
of
about
those
being
things.
real and authentic. Yeah.
And Cody said self-love is running naked in the woods without a care in the world, and all the stuff she said 100%. So look, folks, we're getting ready to close up the bar here. I would be wrong, Dr. Toni, because Nate jumped off here. He didn't stick around. That's not surprising. He probably trying to figure out next year's fantasy football draft. But I would be wrong if I didn't go ahead. So, world traveler that you are, I have some places on my bucket list that I want to go to eat. And I already told you some of them are scare my American flora and fauna in my belly. But there's a little chubby kid that lives in my soul. So I got to ask you, so far in your 5 years of travel, give me the best street food and the best restaurant food that you've had. I need both.
Oh man. On the spot, I have 15 seconds. I
Yeah,
can't.
let's go, Dr. Toni. You got all the time you need. It's
Okay.
my story.
Okay. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to. Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
stop
That's good.
exactly at an hour, but I wanna know, like,
Okay.
what's your best street food and your best,
Hmm.
like, restaurant sit down food? What country does, like, people like, "Hey, look, if you're into this scene, you gotta go."
Okay. Well, it's interesting because like Bali so far does have like so many. It's got like almost LA vibes, California vibes. There's like
Oh, neat.
vegan, avocado. There's like such fancy schmancy restaurants in one
Really?
area particularly. Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, this is not what I was expecting here. The street food is delicious too, but I personally, I mean, I liked the street food in Penang, Malaysia a lot, and also the street food in Thailand. Like, I mean, maybe because I spent a lot of time in Thailand, 8 months in Chiang Mai. And then there was like a really great restaurant. Uh, I'll send you the name because I got to look it up. But it was a three-course meal, delicious, like one the best salmon dish that I've had in a long time for only $30. Like tag everything included. Like it is crazy, and
That's what I
how
always hear.
affordable things are
So, you know
there.
where I'll tell you one of the places for me that I wanna go to for street food, and this is only because other Marines said it was amazing, is I wanna go to the Philippines.
Oh yeah, I've
And
been
and
there. Yeah,
and did you try balut?
balut. No, I
Balut
didn't.
is the balut is the duck eggs, and they have
Yeah.
7-day, 14-day, and 21-day balut. I had a Marine I
No.
worked with, and he was like, "Gunny, you gotta try it." And I'm like, "What are you talking?" And he explained it to me like it's the fermentation and like he's like, "It's the soup on the top when," and I'm like, "I want it, but I love Filipino food." Like
Mm.
I love all I'll be honest with you. Any Asian cuisine, you got me. And I kind of like it, but I debate it between Asian and doggone Turkish. I guess that would be considered not in what would that be considered? I can't think of the right term. But I love Turkish food. Have you ever had Turkish?
Turkish food is delicious. I haven't been to Turkey yet though, but oh, just
Never been either.
whatever restaurant. Yeah.
But see, I've been to like Spain, I've been to Italy, I've been to Sicily, I've been to Greece. Euros in Greece are like $1, and
So good. Yeah.
and they're like nothing. Like it's just meat and a little bit of tzatziki, and they're not like they don't look like a hoagie. It's just this little tiny thing, and you just like they're like great bar food. Yeah, absolutely. So, Dr. Tony, tell everybody where they can find you if they're looking for you.
Yeah, I'm on several places. Instagram, Facebook at drtooney.com, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just Toni Liu. You could search and find me. My website and blog, I got a lot on there. There's like, women's health, education, handouts about things. Like I turned the STDs, the sexually transmitted infections, into villains. So each one's like a cartoon villain. So you can find, I'm gonna turn that into a coloring book at
Wait a
some point.
sec.
Like that's
Please tell me
that's
what
on
the
my list.
villain for syphilis looks like. What is what is
Civil.
what does gonorrhea look like as a villain?
Yeah. So they try to teach you something about them. So the syphilis one is like a mind control
Okay,
syphilis. Get it? Like sift
neurosyphilis.
through neurosyphilis. Exactly. Oh, that's great. You've heard about it. Yeah, because that's like you need to treat this shit. Because if it gets worse, it like yeah messes with your brain.
Yeah,
So
like,
that's kind of yeah. I want it to be educational and fun.
well,
Gonorrhea.
it's
I'm still working on it. Right now, he's
it just runs
gonorrhea.
around
Like
clapping at people. Gonorrhea's just gotta be this villain that every time you do something, it just claps at you. It just keeps clapping at you.
that's
Is
a
that
good one. Yeah, yeah. The
just
clap.
clap.
Right, right, right.
Because it
Yeah.
just goes around in and you never know it's there. You know what it is? It's this villain that causes paranoia that every time you do
Oh,
something, you just start hearing and you're like, "What?
oh,
Who's
that's
clapping at me?
good.
Who's clapping at
Oh
me?"
my
And
gosh.
the villain's just back here clapping until it drives you absolutely mad.
That's so good. Wow. Thank you, Sean. Okay, okay. I need to make like more version two. And yeah, I'll put your name on the version
See
two
that?
of the book.
That would be the second comic book I'm in. I am in
Yeah.
another comic book from a buddy of mine. So look now,
Awesome.
Dr. Tony, this is like episode 226 or 227. I got to look it up. And I know you've binged all of them. We were talking about it before the show. You've binged everything I've ever done. You're very into the Above the Bar podcast. I know that. So you know what's coming up. So I'll throw this out to you, and don't log off on me after we're done. We just got to talk for a minute after the show. As we do at the end of every single episode, the guest always gets the final word. So Dr. Toni, what's the final word?
Ooh, thank you. I have so many messages, but I guess the final word is, yeah, like it sounds cheesy, but like you're fantastic. You are worthy, no matter what your authentic dreams are. Like nobody's got the craziness that is you, right? Like nobody's got your unique everything you want. Like that deserves to come out. Like no matter what anyone else tells you, no matter what your past is like, no matter how much people try to keep you small or down or change, or like even if they feel like it's for your own good, like no, you deserve to expand and like fully be your weirdest, wackiest self. And truly there's so much to you, and you just gotta unlock it. I guess it's just a message that you don't have to achieve anything. Like your worth is 100%. You don't need to do XYZ. Like your worth is who you are, not what you do. So that's the whole message of my podcast too. Accept yourself first, accept everything. Then you can achieve naturally from a place of like your fullest expression, your fullest cup, rather than from a place of not feeling enough or self-judgment or anything like that.
Alrighty, folks, be sure to push your stool in. This has been a Second Front podcast presentation found on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found.